Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this second day of March 2023. And it's a beautiful day out here in Brisbane, though a little bit hazy today and a bit of shower in the morning, but it's 30 degrees and the prediction is for mostly sunny throughout the day. So there you are. Greetings once again from beautiful Brisbane. Well, what we have for you today is the news update, and together with the news update, we also have the Daily India report coming up. Well, right now, there's three areas we're going to look at today. Number one, the weather. What is happening with that? What kind of effect are we having? And are we headed for more floods and rains?
Plucked to safety from a community underwater, homes, pets and possessions left in their wake.
A bit of a mixed emotion at the moment because some people don't want to go because they're worried about their dogs and cats and don't want to leave anything behind.
Residents forced onto rooftops and streets inundated with floodwaters. 700 people from 5 remote communities west of Katherine forced to evacuate after the Victoria River broke its banks as rain hammered down from a tropical low.
We're currently sitting above the major flood level for Kalkarindji, and it is forecast to get to at least 17.5 metres, which will see it similar to the 2001 record flood event in that community.
It's a high flood level, so we're expecting some significant inundation across a range of different dwellings.
Police say so far there's been no reports of people endangered by the rising waters, although paramedics confirmed a teenager was treated in the local clinic for a non-life-threatening crocodile bite. The first residents to leave Kalkarindji, including the elderly and those with medical conditions, are starting to arrive in Katherine before being bused to Darwin, where evacuation shelters are being stood up.
These are well-tested plans that are put in place. We've evacuated communities to Darwin and Katherine many occasions due to flooding events.
Some local authorities believe emergency measures should have been enacted sooner to get people out when the flood threat loomed.
At what point do you put people's lives at risk? And that's the response time that families and community members are questioning.
We respond to the information at hand, and we can only respond to the information at hand and our preparedness for that.
Other Territory communities also remain on high alert, including Daly River, with more rain on the way. Matt Garrick, ABC News.
Well, there you are. So when we look at that response time, how much time do you allow? And the predictions as to how high the tides would come in or the floods will, what kind of effect it will have. And of course, the emergency warnings always need to be a little bit earlier than later. Sometimes even if you evacuate and nothing happens, doesn't matter, at least everyone's safe. Then the other way where, it's already flooded, then you try and start pulling people out. Many times on some occasions that can be a little bit too late. Well, right now, the other two sectors, the first we looked at the weather, and one of the facts of life here, especially in Australia is typically a very flat land, very flat land. So when it rains, it's got nowhere else to go. So, where does it flow out to? So it's not fast flowing. Of course, there are highlands and other areas, but mainly if you look at the majority of the areas, they are just flat plains, and as the song says, across the plains. So, that's why we're always prone to flooding. So that's one. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is some of the essential services, like we will be looking at later on, banking sector as well. First of all, let's take a look at post office and the postal ones. As we know, in today's day and age, there's so much that's dependent upon the deliveries and other things. But of course, with the introduction of emails and all these electronic formats, what's happening with the actual real old postal system? Is it sustainable? Is it financially viable?
I think the options here are to have a good look at the company, consult with consumers, businesses and any Australians who are interested in this great institution, or to do nothing. And for this government, doing nothing is not an option, because Australia Post serves so many communities, particularly in rural and regional Australia, where in many cases it's not only the post office, it's the general store, it's often the only place also providing banking services. So the whole point of this consultation that we're kicking off today is to understand from Australians, and in particular from small businesses and people representing rural and regional Australia, what they need in a modern Australia Post, have a look at the options going forward, but be very upfront about the facts and the challenges that Australia Post is facing.
Well, you've set 8 weeks for submissions. The quickness of that, the relatively short time frame, no doubt indicates the urgency of the matter. So I guess going back to that first question, I mean, how long does Australia Post have to get things in order to be able to be viable for the future?
Well, to be clear, this is a consultation process which, as you say, is running for 2 months, and that will inform government views on regulations and policies going forward. So we want to get this right. We want to make sure that the most important asset of Australia Post, its workforce, is also properly consulted and their needs understood, and also that Australians have the opportunity to have their say on this matter. So I want to be clear that no decisions have been made here. This is a genuine consultation process. This is a government being upfront with the Australian people about the challenges it faces, and we want to have a sustainable Australia Post that supports good, well-paying jobs, but also provides those services, especially in our regions, that consumers want and expect.
So do you anticipate people will be paying more for stamps to have letters delivered, that they won't be getting deliveries every day, that post offices in regional areas might be consolidated more than they already have? Are all those things possibilities?
Well, again, no decisions have been made here, but I will make this point. We are very clear up front in the principles of this consultation that Australia Post will not be privatised, that we do prioritise the needs of rural and regional Australia, and that we want to hear from Australian consumers, businesses and anyone else with an interest in this great institution about what they believe needs to be done going forward. But let's be clear, the letter volumes that we've seen, they are in decline. These are the facts. And some 97% of letters that go out these days are actually sent by businesses and government. And even in those cases, they are becoming increasingly digitised. And we know that for many businesses, that is certainly their aim, not only for cost cutting, but also to meet any obligations they may have under, for example, environmental obligations. So when you have Australians receiving on average about 2 letters a week now, you need to really have a look at where demand is. And I actually see this very much, as I discussed this with small business representatives and other people interested in this area, this is very much a productivity driver. We know that the parcels business is booming, with some 500 million parcels delivered last year, but this is an unregulated side of Australia Post business, and it's subject to intense competition from major international players who are building or in the process of having built their own networks. So we want to make sure that Australia Post remains financially sustainable and viable, because that means we can have good, well-paying jobs, the needs of Australians are met. And just to also make this point, I think many of your viewers will be surprised to learn that the regulations governing Australia Post today are essentially the same as they were 25 years ago. So that was 10 years before the first iPhone came into view as well. So it's important that we address this now.
Of course, it needs to be addressed now, sooner than later. And of course, looking at the business model of Australia Post, it is not all about profit, it's about essential services. Post has been part of the daily life of so many people for so many years now. So maybe the government might have to look at it as one of the statutory bodies that operate under with a bit of government funding to maintain that essential services for the general public. Maybe that might be a way forward, as is in some countries. I'm not saying all countries, but in many countries it is a subsidiary of the government, wing of the government department itself. Well, right now, the other sector, where there's a lot of tension these days, people are finding it hard to find a local branch of a bank to go to. When they go, they're all ultra-modern these days. Sometimes you don't even see a single teller. There's only these touch machines that you've got to do. trying to get to talk to someone personally or face to face is becoming next to impossible these days. And there are remote communities where the people dependent on the banks now have seen that their local branches are being closed without informing anyone at all.
We look at our banking branches in our local communities. They are very important, especially the big fours. We're lucky the community Bendigo banks have come online as well to help in our smaller towns, but they are very important to the community.
Do you think the big banks in particular really truly think about the impact on regional communities? Yes, they're businesses, they've got to make a profit, and they make big profits, as we know, but do they really, in your view, consider the impact of bank branch closures on local communities?
It's interesting, Michael, with the Westpac Bank decision. If you look at the National Australia Bank locally, the ANZ Bank in Sale, they've both done major fit-outs. They're here for the long term. We had no consultation from the Westpac Bank, and it's very disappointing.
Okay, so no explanation, attempted explanation at all from Westpac?
No, nothing at this stage.
Okay, more generally speaking, and we're getting lots of views along these lines that people in country areas rely more on people in the cities and suburbs on bank branches, particularly older people in regional areas. How important are these branches to them in particular, in your view?
I think it's very important. When we look out in the country, a lot of the ageing communities, and look, the digital age is coming, but at this stage it hasn't quite reached out to everyone, so it's very important for our communities in regional Victoria that there is a banking network for your older generation to still carry out. A lot of people go, they withdraw money out of their pension, they still do a lot of cash transactions. Without banks, they won't be able to continue that.
And also, how important is it that people coming into bank branches to either withdraw their pensions, as you say, or do other business, they're on the main strip of the country town or city, and they therefore spend in other shops? How important is that?
It's very important. Great point, Michael, because they can't access the cash to go out, and they don't use the swipe cards, the credit cards. They do rely on that cash economy. Without being able to access the cash, it will create some problems.
Now, Ian Bye, we've got the committee there heading your way. What do you think the reception will be? Do you know whether many people there will use the opportunity to step up and have their say?
Look, we invite the community at 2:30 today to come in. The senators, we've got 4 of the 76 senators that are coming down, Senator Rennick, Colbeck, Roberts and Canavan, and it's great to see them come down to start the Senate inquiry into regional bank closures here in Sale. And what they are doing is half an hour presentations from numerous people from the community, whether it's leaders or others, and then they're going to have a question and answer at 2:30 for general public. But the general public can stay there all day, they can listen and definitely have some input.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you reports, interviews, features and more on India and the Indian diaspora. India is expected to host a stormy G20 foreign ministers meeting on March 2nd as Russia, China and the US foreign ministers arrive in New Delhi. G20 deliberations have been marked by strong division and debate on the crisis due to the Russia-Ukraine war. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov was among the first to arrive as he landed in India on February 28th for the G20 foreign ministers meeting to be held on March 2nd. Union State Secretary of State Antony Blinken is expected to arrive on March 1st. Both Lavrov and Blinken are expected to have respective bilateral meetings with Indian Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on March 1st. Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang on February 28th confirmed his participation in the G20 meeting on March 2nd. Japan's Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi, who called for global efforts at the United Nations last week to force Russia to withdraw from Ukraine, may not travel to India because of a scheduling conflict with an impending parliament session. South Korea, another important East Asian partner, will also be represented by a junior minister as Foreign Minister Park Jin is busy with domestic affairs. While announcing Qin's visit, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said China was ready to work with all parties to ensure the G20 foreign ministers meeting sends a positive signal on multilateralism, food and energy security and development cooperation. The visit is significant as it will also be Quinn's first visit to India as foreign minister and only the second high-level visit from China after his predecessor Wang Yi's visit in 2022. Quinn is likely to have a bilateral meeting with Indian Foreign Minister Jai Shankar. The G20 Foreign Ministers meeting will officially begin on March 1st with a reception and conversation over dinner that will be hosted by Dr. Jai Shankar. While a joint statement, like with the finance ministers' meeting, is unlikely, India is hoping the outcome reflects the Bali consensus with its emphasis on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's remark that this isn't the era of war. Despite the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, Russia has delivered the third squadron of the S-400 air defense system, which is being deployed along the Pakistan border to tackle any aerial attack from the Pakistan side. India has received the third squadron of the Russian-made S-400 air defense system for Moscow. This S-400 squadron is being deployed at the border with Pakistan to tackle aerial attacks on the border states of Punjab and northern Rajasthan in India. India, that deals with border threats on two fronts, China and Pakistan, the delivery of the third S-400 squadron is a strong military deterrence. India can also shift the S-400 deployment from the Western Front to the Eastern Front. The first squadron of S-400 from Russia came to India in December 2021 and the second squadron in April 2022. Despite being caught up in the war against Ukraine, Russia delivered the third squadron in February 2023. The Indian Air Force deployed its first S-400 squadron near Pathankot, from where any air attack from China on Ladakh, Himachal and Uttarakhand states can be stopped. The same squadron will also be used to counter airstrikes from Pakistan on Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab. The second S-400 squadron has been deployed to protect the Siliguri corridor in West Bengal. India is creating a modern digital infrastructure to ensure the digital revolution benefits reach the last mile, especially those that need upliftment. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government has set the target of 2047 to become a developed nation. Prime Minister Modi has said that technology will help India become a developed nation by 2047. He outlined the massive and modern digital infrastructure being created to ensure that the benefits of the digital revolution reach all citizens. Modi addressed a post-budget webinar on unleashing the potential, ease of living using technology on February 28th. He said his government wants to reduce the cost of compliance of small businesses and asked the industry to formulate a list of unnecessary compliances that can be pruned. Modi said his target was to reduce the compliance cost of small businesses. He noted that India is creating a modern digital infrastructure and ensuring that the benefits of the digital revolution reach every section of society. Citing certain examples, he said technology is being used to make the tax system faceless, to address the problems of taxpayers. Modi said that technologies like 5G and artificial intelligence are leading conversations now and poised to transform areas like medicine, education, agriculture and many other sectors. Modi added technology formed the base of One Nation, One Ration and the JAM, Jan Dhan Yojana, Aadhaar and mobile number. Trinity helped in giving benefits to the poor. Living in faraway lands or nearby, their motherland resides in their hearts. And that is what leads the Indian diaspora to come back to India at every opportunity they get. PIO-TV interviewed a few of the diaspora members at the 17th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas held in Indore in January 2023. Overseas Indians connect to their motherland through various means and the Indian government values this engagement with the diaspora. To connect physically, India hosts the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas every year. India hosted the 17th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas in January 2023 in Indore, Madhya Pradesh state. PBD 2023 presented a great opportunity for the Indian diaspora to physically visit their motherland. The Indian government was also eager to interact directly with the diaspora after a long wait. The emotional connection with their motherland brought them back to India as soon as the opportunity came in the form of the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. The PIO Chamber of Commerce and Industry is a unique and the largest of its kind platform that conjugates the Indian diaspora amongst themselves and with the central, the state governments and businesses in India. Priya Rawat, COO of Invest India, interacted with PIO TV on her connection with the motherland.
I personally have a very strong connection because I have been born and brought up in India. I've been in India almost all through my life except a couple of years. But I know of my family has been living abroad for a few years now, and they do miss India, and the connection that they see, the passion to do something for India and be part of the change that is happening is something that I can really see in them. And I think this is consistent and across all Indians, whether in India or out of India.
India experienced its hottest February month. The Indian Weather Agency has warned of the onset of another sweltering summer and occurrences of heat waves. People living in India are getting ready to experience an unusual summer season. India has witnessed the hottest February on record. The average maximum temperature for the month rose to 29.5 degrees Celsius, the highest since 1901. The average minimum temperatures for the month too remained above normal by 0.8 degrees Celsius, indicating the onset of yet another sweltering summer. According to the India Meteorological Department, from March to May, both day and night temperatures are expected to remain above normal over most parts of the country, except the southern states where they are likely to be normal to below normal. Indian equity indices continued to fall for the 8th consecutive day. After starting on a positive note, the two main indices closed with a decline of 326 points. BNC Sensex was down 326 points and NSE Nifty down almost 89 points. Indian indices had opened positively on February 28, with Sensex tilting slightly towards the greener end and even reaching as much as 59,483.72. But then declined by 326.23 points or 0.55% to settle at a 4-month low of 58,962.12. During the day, it dropped 492.38 points or 0.83% to 58,795.97. The market mayhem continued for the 8th day in a row, and the negativity can be attributed to relentless selling by the FII camp. The negative takeaway was that Nifty witnessed drubbing despite Adani Group stocks bouncing sharply higher in today's trade. Nifty reached a high of 17,440.45 during the day's trade. Adani Enterprises rose 14.90% in the backdrop of the conglomerate's massive roadshow in Singapore, giving reassurance to the investors. The NSE Nifty dipped 88.75 points or 0.51% to end at a low of 17,303.95 as 33 of its stocks declined. SS Rajamouli's magnum opus RRR continues to woo juries across the globe as the team has now won several awards in multiple categories at Hollywood Critics Association Awards 2023. SS Rajamouli and his team for the film RRR have made India proud once again. RRR won several awards in multiple categories at Hollywood Critics Association Awards 2023. This comes days before the prestigious Oscars 2023, which will be held on March 12th. RRR was also awarded in Best Action Film, Best Stunts and Best Song categories. The film has also been getting love from the international film fraternity. Moreover, the Natu Natu song won the Golden Globe for Best Original Song and the entire nation beamed with joy. The film also stars Shriya Saran, Samuthi Rakani, Ray Stevenson, Makarand Deshpande and Olivia Morris in supporting roles. The music of RRR has been composed by M.M. Keeravani. That's all for this bulletin of the Daily India Report.
There you are, ladies and gentlemen, up to date on Australian Indian Radio. And thank you, Simran, for that report. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for you today in this segment. Until tomorrow, it's goodbye from us. And right now, once again, 30 degrees and prediction is for mainly sunny. But right now in the city, there is very light showers that's happening. Until tomorrow, it's goodbye from us. We'll see you then. It's always so good to have your company.